Boy, this is going to be going up late tonight, but I wanted to have a chance to talk about the Fed, and I've been busy all day. And I have to say, the Fed is getting quite boring. I think that I'm going to have to stop doing updates on the Fed just because there's nothing to really update on. The situation hasn't changed, and I think the Fed has tapped out at this point. There's really nothing more that the Fed is interested in doing. The Fed just gave us, their outlook for the next 4 years, and they said through 2024 we're not raising rates, which I could have told you that's obvious. But the Fed's saying it definitively now. Nope, we're going to leave rates at 0% forever. That's just the way things are. That's the way things ought to be. And if that's the case, then the Fed's not doing anything. The Fed is not going to be playing an active role in day-to-day markets. Obviously, all the money they're injecting makes a big difference, but it's the same difference. They're not doing anything new that's worth talking about, and I think that's why the stock market sold off today, because as the Fed, has continually over the last 40 years since the 80s. Taken interest rates on this downward trajectory. Every time the Fed wants to juice markets higher, they have to do something more extreme. They have to cut lower and lower. And they've been bouncing off of the zero lower bound for half of my life. And now they've finally capitulated and said, we're going to stay at zero forever. And there's nothing else they can do aside from... Gosh, I don't know. They're monetizing the debt. They're buying up. I guess they could buy stocks. That's the one thing the Fed has left that they could do. But they don't seem interested in that at the moment. They're not acting like it. To me, Powell seems exasperated. Today at a press conference, he said, I don't think it would be correct to say that we're out of ammo. And the way he said it told me, oh, of course, you're totally out of ammo, which, I could have told you that. But the Powell believes it, which is, that's the important thing here. Powell does not think that there's anything left that he can do. He thinks that he's done everything he can. And, at this point, it's up to Congress. And that's something that, should be scary to the equity markets, because I think a lot of the hopium that has been juicing the stock market has been this hope in the back of people's minds that the Fed was going to eventually buy stocks. Because every time that the stock market has done anything, in the wrong direction, anytime there's been, even the slightest correction, the Fed's come in to try and blow some more wind back in Wall Street sails to get them back on the right course, on their upward trajectory. And now Powell seems to be saying, no, there's nothing else we can do. This is it. Until 2024. And in 2024, the only thing that we might change is rates might start to go up, which they're not going to. Just like in Japan. We're at zero forever. This is it. We are in, stagnant stand? I can't come up with a catchy name. Stagnation is our future. Stagflation is also likely in our future. But who knows? If the Fed is already tapping out and they are already saying essentially there's nothing we can do left to control this market, we've done everything we can, then things are going to spiral out of control. Because the only way that things have continued to go up is because the Fed has been able to double down and take more extreme measures every step of the way. The Fed has done something every few months to push markets higher. They've been doing this since it was the end of 2018. The Fed came out and said, okay, balance sheet runoff on autopilot, not happening anymore. We're ending that. And then pretty soon they had to start saying, okay, no more rate hikes. And okay, actually we're going to cut rates. And we got rates at zero. Well, we're going to do even more injections by buying all sorts of assets out of the market and injecting money. And now Powell is saying there's nothing left we can do. The only thing he has left to do is to buy stocks, and he has not said that he's going to do that. Perhaps Powell still buys into his own BS too much. Perhaps to him buying stocks would be way too blatant of a handout to Wall Street, because it literally would be a handout to Wall Street. There's no other way to look at that. You're going to Wall Street and buying stocks from them. And so maybe he doesn't have the stomach for that. Maybe he thinks that maybe he does look at himself as this noble hero of justice who's trying to, tweak the American economy to benefit everyone. I don't know how he would possibly believe that, but some of these Fed people like Kashkari, and certainly I think Dudley. Dudley is who used to be the president of the New York Fed. He was totally bought into the Fed's message. And that's something that really astonished me when I realized that he was not like a Greenspan type person. Greenspan was a Machiavellian. I've been over this before. But Dudley and potentially Powell and these other, Kashkari certainly, these people have no idea what they're doing. They think that they're the good guys somehow. And so maybe because of that, because Powell doesn't understand that he's the villain in this equation, he can't consciously make such an overtly evil decision. And if that's the case, the stock market's screwed. They have nothing left. There's no hope. There's no earnings growth. There's only been multiple expansion fueled by the Fed, and the Fed has to constantly, just to keep the current thing, just to keep things afloat, the Fed has to introduce more and more easing. But if the easing slows, or if the easing, stops or anything like that, or doesn't grow, and Fed just lies and waits, or God forbid, actually hikes rates and tightens a little bit, that's apocalyptic for the stock market. We saw that in 2018, December of 2018. Well, the Christmas Eve lows. That was all because the Fed said, let's tighten a little bit. I think they got up to what, 2.25%. And we almost, went into the second Great Depression over that. We're going to go into total financial collapse over that. And so anyone with a half a brain who can see, past this week, past this month, looks at this situation and goes like, geez, when's all this going to hit the fan? And I don't think enough people really appreciate the significance of Powell tapping out like this. I mean, the Fed's been signaling for a while that they want to essentially punt to Congress and say to Congress, hey, we've given you the money we've given you essentially full MMT power here. We're going to monetize any debt you issue. So just go ahead and spend money and, pass your silly little stimulus bills, which don't actually do anything, but they make people feel better. So they do improve sentiments. They will get people to buy stocks. Would be my guess. And these stimulus bills, of course, if they are done in a way to have any effect on the real economy, they will cause massive inflation. Which, if you ask people at the Fed, that's actually by design. They just happen to think that inflation is a good thing, because to them inflation means that, that means that there's economic activity going on, which is nonsense. But we don't need to get into that whole discussion. But, as long as, and at that stage, we have to look at what the political situation is. What are the odds that we're going to have some massive spending bill? I mean, we've been having massive spending bills, but massive on the level that the Fed is talking. I mean, if you compare what the Fed has done and what the Fed does, regularly compared to what Congress spends, it's, they're not in the same ballpark. I think that in order to, the kind of easing that would be required to sustain this whole bubble would be essentially some kind of guaranteed minimum income, and just Congress mailing people out money every month, entirely printed out of thin air. Which is something I thought would happen fairly quickly. When the Depression started, I thought that this would be a great excuse. Not that I want this to happen, but that I thought that this would be something that would be pretty popular in Washington, and that both parties would probably agree on, because the parties love to expand programs. But for whatever reason, the actual partisan division in Washington has been significant enough to where they're actually fighting each other. They're not saying, it's not like the Republicans are saying, well, we shouldn't spend money, and the Democrats are saying we should spend money. They're arguing over petty things. They both want to spend tons and tons of money. They both want to spend, money in the trillions. But they're haggling over details and things, and frankly, I've lost faith that they're going to really, have the courage to really screw things up. It might just be that partisan gridlock, saves us from hyperinflation for a little while. In which case, the best outcome right now would be for Trump to remain president and for the Congress to remain divided between the two major parties, so that everyone just keeps bickering and doesn't do anything. Because what the Fed wants Congress to do is insane, and ultimately it will not save us. It'll cause more problems. But who knows? Maybe it would be better if Congress just comes in and spends an unlimited amount of money and finally just destroys, our economic system once and for all. Maybe sort of a Weimar end to America is, maybe that is what would be, the fastest and best way to end, the suffering. But who knows? I mean, if the Fed really can't do anything else, whatever Congress is going to do, I don't think is going to have a significant impact, in helping the stock market, because really, what the stock market needs is an injection of more and more money. And if and the only thing at this point that could force more money into the stock market than is already there, judging by how high prices have gotten, how high multiples are, the only thing that, and of course market cap to GDP, setting new records. What is it, 180 something percent? The only thing that can keep pushing things higher is if the Fed goes out and buys stocks. And as long as that's off the table, it would seem that a reckoning for the stock market is in the cards, sometime in the medium term. Potentially before the election, but probably even before the end of this year. And you know what? A lot of people have been saying that because members of Congress are, very much in the top 1% of Americans in terms of wealth, that to them, they look at the stock market, and that to them is a barometer of how well the economy is doing. And there isn't that sense of urgency as long as the stock market is doing well. They think things aren't that bad, no matter what the unemployment rate is, even though the unemployment rate is also heavily suppressed by the way the government statistics are calculated. There have also been people, and I've made this case in the past, that Congress won't do anything significant until there's a stock market crash, because that's what will really scare them and think, oh my gosh, I have to do something to save my 401k. If the stock market crashes, I mean, that does have ripple effects. That is going to affect housing. That is going to affect the bond market. That is going to affect housing. It's going to affect retail sales. It's going to affect a lot of stuff. But what exactly happens, I guess, in that term length? There's still too much uncertainty, because there's still too many shoes that have to drop. I think really the next stage that we're looking at is another big drop in stocks after what the Fed said today. And once that happens, and once that's set in, people understand that we're in that mode again, that we're in bear market territory once again, which we thought we were before, and then all of a sudden we weren't, in a matter of a couple weeks. Then I will try and reassess and figure out what exactly is going to go on moving forward. Then we might have a little bit more of an idea of what Congress is doing, and who knows, by then we very well might have a new president-elect, or there will have a contested election where there's no real president-elect and we don't know who is going to take over, and there's going to be riots in the streets. There might be many other big problems going on at the same time that this impending stock market drop occurs. So that's pretty much my reaction to the Fed's press conference today. If you get anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.